Hi everyone, I'm here with Mr. Idris Musty, the Principal of Excelling Key Subjects, and we're just talking about revision and getting on course with the summer exams and exam success basically. I was just going to start by asking if you've got any practical advice for parents whose children are obviously going through exams at the moment.
Well, it is a very nervous time for families at this time of the year because all the exams are coming up, GCSE, A-level, and actually Key Stage 3 as well. It is very important for the family, for the parents to support their children as much as possible because every little help really do help. Every little support that students get from their parents help in order to cope with the stress of revising for exam, and that may actually have an impact on the results that they achieve. I mean, it depends really at the point in the revision process. There are various questions that parents ought to be asking, young people. One of those is that do you have a target for each of your subjects? Are you absolutely certain which modules you've been entered for by your teachers at school? Are there topics that you need to brush up on? Maybe you missed school or what have you. Are there topics that you need help with? And about the actual revision for the exams itself, some of the questions is, do you have past exam papers? Have you been using them for practice? Do you check your answer? Do you sit yourself with a question paper, trying to do it to the time that is specified in the exam? All those are practical questions that are very useful. And what is also important is to get into some sort of routine. Parents can certainly advise their children in terms of the length of study. It doesn't really wash to think that a young person is going to go down to their room and study for 4 hours. Not very many people can manage it. One of the things I like to say is, 1.5 hours is the absolute maximum. We recommend something like you study for 45 minutes, have a 10-minute break. Just make sure you have a break. As far as I'm concerned, I must be very honest about this. I don't think it helps at all to have loud music or particularly television. It's better for the young person to maybe study in the kitchen when it's quiet, or in a study if they have a study, but actually studying in your room with loud music going on, I'm not sure if that's a very good way, or having TV on. Those are some of the practical advice that parents will
think about.
They want to think about the young person.
And a lot of people at this time talk about exam revision guides, revision timetables and so on. What are your thoughts on being prepared and the best preparation that people can make, or children can make for, and students can make for the exams?
In terms of, gone are those days when we were growing up. There are so many revision books these days. So many of them are very colorful. And in fact, not only that, some of them are very helpful. Actually, to talk about the revision guides for a start, I must say that we're going deep into the actual, trying to improve the grades here. From my 2 decades or so of experience teaching, there are so many of these revision books, and they're very helpful. But what we must realize is that if a young person is looking to get better than a C grade, they do need to get into the meat of it by looking at proper textbooks and actually learning around the subject to know more in depth. Yes, in most cases the revision guide is sufficient as opposed to get a C or D grade, and they are quite useful. But at the same time, what I suggest is they use very proper textbooks.
Sure.
Well in advance. Yes, closer to the exams, the revision guides are very useful. Another point, which is very important, is using past exam materials. The idea of actually using mark schemes, it's okay, but it depends on the child. It's always better to avoid it. at the very least, at the very beginning. Maybe later on there may be a point for using the mark schemes, but it's always good to actually try to have a go at the exams, look at the textbook to sweat out, to actually find the answers before you refer yourself to the mark schemes.
Sure.
Does that answer your question?
No, I think that sounds very, very wise. And just specifically on revision plans, do you have any thoughts as to how long they should be, what structure, what format? Do you have any thoughts around that?
It depends on the period, how close it is to the exam. The best revision really is well before the exam to keep up and make sure if you don't understand a topic, make sure you sort of ask the teachers, seek help or what have you to make sure you understand it. But when it comes to the exam, it's very important how it is planned, because a lot of students tend to concentrate on believe it or not, but some students do it. They concentrate on the exams they've got first. Whereas what they should do really is have a program of when I'm going to study this and not just spend too much time on the exam they've got first. And on the other hand, some actually do it the other way around. They concentrate on the exam they got a long time, quite far back, and then they don't spend time on the one they've got very close. And then when they get very close to the exam, they begin to sort of panic in the last minute. It's very important to have a sort of a well-planned revision program in terms of how long they intend to spend on each particular subject. And as I mentioned earlier, when it actually comes to the exam revision itself, yes, it is good to have the discipline of being absorbed into it. Maybe 3-4 hours or more, but don't sit down for 4 hours.
Sure.
An hour maximum, an hour and a half. Have a break. But when you have a break, the temptation is not to go back into it, get distracted by watching TV or what have you. Sure. Yes, have a break, have a short walk, have a cup of tea, go in the garden, but make sure you go back to it. It's very, very important that when young people are revising, they take regular breaks, but they must always go back into it.
So they have a break and a bit of a time, bit of a schedule.
Indeed. I'll suggest something like, I suppose, an hour, 20 minutes. And 10 minutes break, 10 or 15 minutes break, and then go back to it. Yes, and then do that, I suppose, for about 2 or 3 times, then have a long break for an hour, and then go back to it later.
So that allows you to spread the load and get as much learning as possible.
That's right, very important, because the brain cannot cope with trying to study for 3-4 hours and to stretch. Well, not everybody's brain anyway.
Sure. And you mentioned earlier about target grades in subjects and school predicting grades. How would you add anything to that? How important are predicted grades and target grades for people?
Well, there are 2 ways to look at it. As far as predicted grades are concerned, it can be a life or death situation for many people, because university offer could depend on it, especially if they are 17, 18. So that could be absolutely crucial. I think in most cases, from my experience, the students that do best are the ones whose predicted grade are conservative. I love that feeling in the face of students. I say, "Oh, Mr. Musty, you predicted me a B, I actually got an A star. I like it that way."
Sure.
Than say you predicted me an A and I ended up with a D. It's always good for the school to be conservative about it. And whatever grade is predicted, just take it as it is a target grade. But it's something that should be to give the student confidence, to sort of give them encouragement they can do it. But at the same time, to be practical and realistic about it. So yes, target grades and predicted grades are good.